Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it is I, Taylor Field, and this is my first solo review back in action in 2020. Now, granted, I did shout out the possibility of maybe doing a Grudge review, and I saw the Grudge last week, and if you've tuned into any other casts recently, you probably are made aware that this was not particularly one of my favorite movies, and with the amount of time it takes to go into reviewing a movie and such, I just thought, there's other possible options for me to do a quick review. So I've dropped little hints and little reviews and other newscasts and such, but if you want to hear my input, go check those out. And that being said, this review tonight or today or wherever you are in the world is specifically towards Underwater with Kristen Stewart. And yeah, aside from that, I'm trying to think what else is just popping right now. In the GeekVerse, we have our 2020 preview. We have the Golden Geeks. If you haven't checked out our social media, make sure you do, because we just dropped our year calendar, basically just covering over like our plan and all the different kind of content we're putting out into the GeekVerse, retrospectives and Patreon exclusives. It is a lot of juicy content, so be sure to check that out. But other than that, yeah, let's talk about Underwater. So, this is a movie that I wasn't sure what I was going to get by going to the theater and seeing this. And everyone in the Geekverse was just telling me, it was specifically Travis, Tuesday, go on Cheap Tuesday. And I thought, no. I was going to go see this opening night, but I didn't because I had to do other podcast stuff. So I was like, okay, tickets booked, Saturday night, we're going Underwater, me and my significant other. So theater was packed, which is good for a Saturday night. Unfortunately, it was the same theater I saw Star Wars Rise of Skywalker in, and that theater has like a busted speaker, so this movie had a lot of bass, and that speaker was not handling it good. It was brutal. But on the bright side, I'm a man for previews, and this experience, it had a lot of horror movie previews, but the first preview of the coming soons that popped in was Black Widow, which is fantastic. This is like the cajillionth time I've seen this trailer, so why not make a cajillion and one? And the second trailer, I was thinking, wow, this is interesting. This is scary. There's like this scenario with this boy and this mom and everything, and then it goes to them going to this mansion. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And sure as shit, the second trailer is a boy is going through the woods and digs up something in the backyard. It's Brahms! It's Brahms the boy too! Unbelievable! This is just kind of turned into a GV meme here or whatever, but I could not believe when I saw Brahms. I was like biting down on my tongue thinking, holy crap, I think I'm destined to see this movie in theaters. Me, Kirkland, Dylan, I don't know where Travis stands on this, but we got to get a review out of Brahms the boy too. Even if I'm doing it solo, which I doubt I will, I'm sure Kirkland will be on board with this, but I want to get a Brahms review for you guys. But yeah, that was kind of segueing in to, I thought this is a great start to a movie here with Brahms already in the previews. But yeah, anyway, so Underwater. I'm going to quickly do a non-spoilers review for the first, 2 minutes, and then I'm going to dive right into spoilers, just so you are aware and you can kind of not be caught off guard as soon as I drop spoilers on you, because if you're gonna go see this movie, I don't want to ruin the experience for you. So non-spoilers, Underwater. This movie was a pleasant surprise. Obviously, the trailer showcased certain things. If you haven't seen the trailer, I won't go into detail, but there were certain assets and components shown in the trailer that definitely was a little bit of a takeaway, because it removes the mystery of wondering, okay, what is it specifically that is causing the problems in this film for the characters like Kristen Stewart and other members of her party. Now, unfortunately, yes, in one of the trailers, they showed what the problem was. Now, I didn't understand what level it would unfold, but watching the movie, even though they showcased what the problem was, there were still a lot of other components that I didn't expect or anticipate that they threw in there to add more to the mystery of what this problem was, and I really commend that. I think that they delivered and executed it very, very well. And just the aesthetic and the survival of this party and throughout their treks in this movie was just a complete surprise. And there were so many times where you feel claustrophobic in a good way, not like you actually in the theater like and feeling trapped or something like that, but it just was a surprise. And there were so many scenes that combined, I don't want to say like had parts of like the original Alien, but to me it felt like there was a like trapped in space vibes to it, and I really liked it because it didn't feel like it was a repeat or a rehash. It felt like, okay, this is a fresh experience, and there were moments when I jumped like once or twice, mostly because the speakers were fucking toast. But it was just a good experience. The story was very interesting, and the characters, you really root for them. It wasn't then that sense where most movies, when shit hits the fan, you have one odd one out who is thinking only for themselves and that they don't care about the rest. But everyone in this movie, at least their characters, they were all cared so much about each other and wanted each other to get ahead and continue forward. And I loved having that. It just made it so much easier to connect with the characters and their struggle and what they were going through in this film. And it again, like as I said, it had moments and parts that felt like an Alien vibe. There were times where you have to use your eyes and look around in certain spots, as the camera's panning, and you're seeing things that can be easily and quickly dismissed or missed just in general if you're not watching out for them. And those are the moments that really make the hairs on your neck stand up and were very freaky, because you are trying to figure out what is going on along with the crew members, and it just somehow you see these things that the other crew members obviously can't, and it's just a shock, it's a surprise, and it's scary. And that's where the horror elements come in, and they're done very, very well. It's not just your classic jump scares. It's moments where something is going to happen and you do jump, but it's not necessarily that they're trying to, at least I didn't feel like they were trying to make you jump or scare you. It's just moments where it happened to be calm moments that led to something happening for the crew, and those moments were pulling you into the drama and the scene, and then you react you react as well as the crew. With the crew, you're reacting with them to these scenarios, and I like that. I think it was very done. I love the transitions between the scenes. I think it was very, very fantastic, and I loved how it segued to like the next scene after the next scene throughout all these different endeavors. So very well done. And I would honestly say, don't wait for a cheap Tuesday for this. If you're looking just for a good, entertaining movie, there's nothing wrong with this movie, like, in that regard. Like, off the top of my head, I can't think of really any serious problems I had. I thought it was a great experience, and I was thoroughly content, and definitely worth, I have no regrets paying, my monies to go and see this movie. And I haven't seen a lot of movies with Kristen Stewart. My only go-to I know of is probably the Twilight Saga. But that being said, she was fan-freaking-tastic in this. I haven't seen Charlie's Angels. It's another one that's on my list that I haven't seen that she's in. But she was just absolutely amazing in this movie. There's these certain movies where I think I had to see to kind of detach these characters from their previous roles in the Twilight Saga. And for me, The Lighthouse is what I needed to watch to see, okay, if Robert Pattinson can play Batman, let's see how he does in The Lighthouse. That was kind of my thought process. And he was fan-freaking-tastic in there. I think he's going to be a great Batman. And I know this is, again, the same here. I wasn't sure what I was going to get out of Kristen Stewart. And she just delivered, the emotion and the dynamics and the drama and just her display. And she's a great actress. She's just fantastic. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say in the non-spoilers. So 3, 2, 1, Taylor assemble. It is the spoiler review moment now. So okay, right off the bat, yes, there are giant monsters in this movie, and it's very cool because it's not like, I shouldn't say multiple giant monsters, there's just the one, and there's all the little minion monsters. Now that is what I was not expecting. I thought we were just going to get, okay, the space, or the underwater submergible station is just being attacked by this large creature, and that was it. And I thought it was just going to be a little dynamic, and the creature is just pounding on the outside and them trying to escape. on the inside. And I thought it wouldn't be anything super special, but that's it. So luckily, it was not just that. As I said, there were these little creatures, and they built up to it. You know, the movie didn't waste any time throwing you an origin story or anything like that. They trickled little bits of people's kind of stories throughout the film in a good way that it warranted certain moments for them to drop these tidbits of information about their life. And it just caught me by surprise how, okay, I knew there was a big monster in this because of the trailers. They spoiled that much, but that being said, it was a pleasant surprise to see, okay, they're starting off with this little creature, and then it kind of goes off towards these more human-like, larger humanoid-looking subterranean or sub-underwater things, mermen, and then that led to the giant creature, and it was just super, super cool. And I love how the story kind of covers that, where, okay, now just like in the movie The Meg, this is a concept that I really liked, how they went to like the Marianas Trench and they reached a point where they could go further below where they thought it was the sea level. They went further and further, and then they basically set loose the Megalodon. Now in this, it's the same kind of concept. They were at the Marianas Trench, and this company was drilling deeper and deeper, and it broke through obviously a layer in the plate, and something like this monster came out, which is a very interesting concept that I really like. It reminds me kind of like Piranhas. And that movie, as janky as it was, don't go see that with your mom in theaters, or just in general, it's awkward. But that being said, in Piranhas, the concept in Piranhas is that, okay, there was an earthquake, and there were pockets of water, like underwater caverns, that were cut off from the rest of the world for millions of years. And there's just certain life forms that survive in these pockets. And it's just amazing how they could survive. Now, I am definitely a firm believer in things like, Bigfoot, aliens, mythological creatures to that certain regard, and even like mermaids and stuff. I think there's definitely some unexplained things out there, and it's terrifying. And I think for sure there's, if you go deep enough in the ocean, they're still discovering species that we've never seen before. And this movie just adds a realistic kind of twist to that kind of concept of drilling very, very deep into the ocean, 6.7 miles below sea level, and finally reaching an area that just breaks into this new kind of cavern where this thing comes out and starts wreaking havoc on this massive underwater submerged station. And again, that's where the story with Kristen Stewart and her character is just, it starts off with her and she's kind of narrating a little bit, and then all of a sudden the station just goes to hell. And it goes from just her by herself, and then they throw in all these other characters, and I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who's like the bartender from Deadpool. He was really good in this. He was obviously the comedic relief, but in a way that he would just say certain things and odd things that I personally liked. It was humor that I could jive with, and I kind of thought was really well timed in moments and such. And then to my surprise and shock, they had Colleen in here. If you're an Iron Fist fan, Marvel's Netflix show, then you definitely know that Colleen is very cool, character in that series, and to see her in this was just pleasantly surprising. So she was definitely, next to Kristen Stewart, she was definitely my favorite in this film. I was rooting for her, and she was just an intern, and the things that she goes through in this role, and just having just the knowledge that she does, but then she develops the will to be, one of the few that actually survives to the end and makes it back to the surface. And I just think that's legendary, and I love her story and her progression, and everything she goes through. There's so many moments when they're walking on the seafloor, and it's just completely dark, pitch black all around them. And to me, that's the equivalent of walking in the woods at nighttime, and you feel like you're being watched. And you're being watched in this sense, because they're on the ocean floor. They know there's these things. And they're eventually, every now and then, they shine their lights around, and you can see the glowing beady eyes underwater, which is just terrifying. But it's just, it was a nonstop thrill ride from them trying to get from one point of the station all the way down outside, walking on the actual ocean floor to another part of the station where they could get to more escape pods. And you just root for them. Again, Kristen Stewart is just phenomenal, and she just totally brings it. I really was hoping that she would survive at the end and make it, but her sacrifice where she blows up the station, it just takes out the main giant creature and the other things. Like, she gets half eaten by one of these little creatures and just blows through it with like her flare gun or whatever. It absolutely just nuts. And she's such a trooper, and she's so just plowing through all these different things. And the things that they experience, she had to cut off a hatchway from a bunch of other people that were running, because if she didn't, they would have just destroyed more of the station. And then unfortunately she had to see her friend just get sucked out of his suit. That was the Deadpool guy. He just got sucked out of his suit, which was just horrible. And then there's just all these other scenarios where like she was trying to save their captain, basically, and then unfortunately the captain was being dragged by one of these creatures, and she was connected to him via a cable, and they were going the creature was pulling them higher up to another pressurized area, and it was warning them on their suits. And basically he said, the pressure is going to destroy your suit, let go of my hand. She was saying no, so he basically popped the cord, and he went up, and she fell back down to the surface. And there was those brief moments when it would be like that, and they would transition to the next scene when she would fall on the surface, or the ocean floor, I should say, not the surface. But and there's other moments when they were out inspecting, when they were making their first descent, and they were inspecting a pod and seeing if there was any survivors in there, and they found this body, and something was in its body, in its back, and it was one of those a little baby version of these mermen creature things, mer people. And the transition that they nailed with that was, as soon as the thing came up, it like jumped onto one of the guy's helmets, and then the other guy shot, and a flash happened when he shot, and then that flash was like bright over the whole screen, and then like the squid thing drops on the flash, and it's transitioned now to basically an examining table inside the pod. And everyone's okay, and it was a very cool transition. I like that kind of like play on your mind and your eyes and what's going on and how it transfers over. Very well done. And but yeah, so as they were trying to escape, there's so many moments where it caught them off guard. And again, these moments where I could feel the team really connecting and trying to make sure everyone was okay. They had their captain. They had another guy that escaped to Kristen Stewart at the beginning. And I really liked this character. He was definitely trying hard. But he inspected all the helmets for the team when they were going to go out into the water. And this is the thing that... Oh, excuse me, gosh. Running out of oxygen. This is the thing that I really enjoyed, was basically he checked all the helmets, and he gave everyone functioning helmets, but they only had a limited amount, and the one that he took for himself was the one that was the most likely to be malfunctioning. And I'm not going to say he paid the price, because he did this knowing that something was probably going to happen, but he did it with the hope that it would be okay and everyone would make it out alive. And he died, unfortunately, and it was sad. The pressure knocked him, and he just exploded, or I guess, as they said, imploded. But the suits they were in were very cool, very dangerous, as they stated in the movie. But the whole time they were in these suits, and I felt like, okay, these are like Gears of War, Coalition of Order Governments, COGS suits, and I was digging it. They looked exactly like COGS suits, I'm not gonna lie. It was awesome. And I was thinking, holy crap, I'm getting like my Alien, I'm getting my Meg, and I'm getting my Godzilla vibe here with a little bit of Gears of War like sprinkled in here. It was like, this is an awesome mix of stuff. And yeah, I'm trying to think what else happened in this movie. There were so many intense moments where these creatures were displayed in a horrific sense. So as they were on the ocean floor at one point, getting into another building, as they were getting in, I didn't know if what I saw was like supposed to be seen or real or what, but as they were going into the facility, the camera kind of pans up a little bit, and then on a higher platform, it is the quickest moment ever in this movie, and you can quickly see a shadowy thing standing on its hind legs there, and I thought, well, this definitely, like, I didn't know what I saw, and it was weird because I wasn't expecting there to be these larger creatures of like human proportion, I guess, in that sense. And that was the first I saw, but I wasn't sure if what I saw was actually a thing or if they would kind of follow through and follow back to that. But they did, and this is where it got more freakier. Was there was a part where they were taking this little tram thing all the way through this tunnel, and then they got to a point where they couldn't go further, so they go underneath, submersed under some water, and then come out on the other side. Now, this is where Deadpool guy kind of gets, well, not kind of. He does get killed at this moment because the whole team goes through, and then he's the last one to go through. And as he's just standing there on the other side alone, waiting for his partner to kind of go through and get to the other side, behind him it's flashing red. And it was just the quickest, briefest scene, but it flashes red once, and you see one of those things standing on its hind legs, which it just felt freaky. Like, these kind of things, it happens all the time in a lot of horror movies, but it never, like, ceases to at least get me going and thinking, well, this is freaky. Because I thought he would live for at least a lot longer, but the thing was standing there, and then it flashes black, and then it flashes red again, and it's kind of a little bit closer, like walking towards him, just freaky. And then it cuts to the thing. You see it kind of like in the water now, kind of just swimming like a whale, kind of breaching a little bit, and then just see like it's the back of it kind of going through the water. And he knows something is wrong. I think he hears like a noise or something, and so he just goes in for it. And there's a bit of a struggle. He's coming through, but they get him on the other side and take his helmet off. But then it pulls the cable back, and it's pulling him in. And that's where it gets kind of freaky and gross. They put his helmet back on, and he's kind of under the water, and then it just pulls him through his suit and just poof like blood. And it's brutal. But it just goes to show, for one thing, that these creatures can stand like on land. They can handle themselves out of water like this creature did, because it was clearly standing above water and it was fine. So that's very, very interesting to know. And I think that's kind of something that could be very easily missed in this movie too. Like, I didn't even catch on to it. My significant other, she mentioned that, and I thought, wow, that's a very, very good point. So it'd be cool to see kind of if I doubt we'll get a sequel to this movie, but it'd be interesting to see where they could have taken that, at least, and the origin more of these creatures. But so continuing on from that, you get to a point where they get back outside again, and this is before the captain obviously died, when he let go of Kristen Stewart and such. And they were on a platform, they were kind of patrolling, trying to get to where they were going, the Roebuck station. And there is this, it looked like it was like a little structure that these things had made almost, because it seemed like it was like a little tunnel area. And one of the guys got dragged down there, and so the captain went in there and like pulled him out. And it just seemed like a little hut structure with a little tunnel that you could go into. And very freaky. I don't know if I could ever go into something like that. Holy crap, this would just be terrifying. But as the captain went in there, that's when he got pulled up with Kristen Stewart and basically separated from the other group. And then they were sitting on this like drill platform, and Kristen Stewart was there, and the most of the time, like, they're just looking around with their lights, and you can't see anything. It's so dark, and it's terrifying. But then you see the lights reflecting off the eyes of one of these things, and they're moving so quick, and it's like bobbing, closer and closer, kind of like looking at them. And it's just, they're terrifying. They got so many teeth on their lower jaw, and just like the two sets of eyes, and like the weird like fish hands, and just freaky. But it continues on to the point where she gets to a different station, and she gets some restocking of gear and everything, which is fantastic. And then she manages to connect with Colleen, who's dragging her partner or her significant other on the ocean floor, because he wasn't doing so good. And just between Colleen and Kristen Stewart just pulling this guy just behind them, is just, they're just trying their hardest to survive and make it through this. And it's just, they're overcoming so much, and they're troopers, and you root for them. And I love that in a movie, when you can really get behind and rally behind a character and root for them. And so they get to where they're going, and they're about to escape when they have to go underneath all of these like hibernating like squid or the hibernating creature things, the mer people, and that's when there's a couple jump scares, and it definitely catches me off guard when one of them like hand drops on like Kristen Stewart's helmet, and just the filming is great because just she's walking forwards and you can hear from her perspective, you can hear the claws of the mer people thing kind of scraping against her helmet glass as she's walking forwards. So it's stuff like that is just freaky, freaky, freaky. But unfortunately, yeah, they wake up, but then like the top part gets ripped off, and she's looking, and she shoots a flare up, and you just see the massive creature for the first time, and it looked much different than I was expecting it to from the trailer reveal, and it looked good, like really good in a good way. It had like a huge jaw, it had like tons of these tentacle things, and just it was foreshadowed earlier because in the earlier part before they were going into the water period, Colleen sees like this artwork and it kind of like freaks her out a little bit, and looking at it now I think the artwork was like a representation of what this thing was, which I think is a cool little foreshadow. Very, very subtle too, but yeah, the creature just was just it's so interesting because it had like the body of a man, well not a man, but like it was huge, and it had like shoulders like and its arms and like its legs, so it just looks like something that could fit totally into like a Godzilla movie, and I wouldn't even be opposed to that at all. I'd love it if this was like a Zilla flick, but it was trying to destroy this part of the facility, and Kristen Stewart and Colleen, they got in, and basically they were putting everyone in the escape pods. There were only 3 pods, 2 of them worked. The other one was dysfunctional, and so they put the one guy into one and let him go off, and then they put they were gonna Colleen was gonna get into the other one, but she was just like, oh, I'll stay behind and get into the third one and make sure you get in here. And Kristen Stewart was like, no, you don't even know how to work it. And then Colleen noticed that the other pod wasn't working, and so Kristen Stewart tried to get her in there, ended up punching her. It said sorry, but like it didn't like knock her out and put her in there, but she just like punched her, and then Colleen kind of just sat back into it and just kind of accepted like, okay, Kristen Stewart's not going to take this pod, fine, I'll just get in. But it wasn't just like a selfish way either. It was caring, and just it was a moment that I couldn't imagine being in with someone like that, and just the level of compassion that you could feel emanating off of the characters and the actors portraying these characters was just fantastic. And it just got to that point where her pod went up and they were going, and then Kristen Stewart looked at the scanners and could see this, just looked out the window too, and the giant creature was standing there, and all along its skin was all of these other the creatures just kind of like chilling, and a whole horde of them went up and like started going straight to the pods. And Kristen Stewart looks at the scanner and then looks at maybe self-destructing, and the self-destruct blast is just out of range of the pods but in range to affect all the monsters. So that's how she passes, and she detonates it, wiping out, this creature, and it goes for like a pan-out shot showing the creature getting killed and everything, and it has her narrating a little bit more, and it's just, yeah, her story was just incredible in this film, and as much as I want her to survive, I'm just rooting for her still, because she was the hero in this film for sure. And then it kind of cuts towards the newspaper images, basically Tyan, I think is how you pronounce the company that was basically running this operation and mining into the earth underwater. And they have the 2 survivors, and they prevented anyone from interviewing them, it was saying, and it said that they were going to clean up and go right back in there and start mining again. And it's just, no. As a wise man once said, the dwarves, see if I can get this right, the dwarves dealt too greedily and dug too deep. I probably butchered that sentence, but Saruman said such a thing to narrating to Gandalf in that sense about the dwarves being greedy and digging too deep. And that's what humanity is in this movie. They're digging deep and they're being greedy. And unfortunately, where they were trying to take a little too much, so now that little too much was trying to take back. And that's pretty much the story of Underwater. And again, like I'm very, very, very content with this movie. I don't have any problems paying the money that I did. I definitely wouldn't say it's a cheap Tuesday movie. I think it's definitely a or just regular night. Just go see it. Go see it with some friends, family, whoever. Because it's a great experience. But other than that, I'd probably give this movie I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. I think the only point I would dock it on is just probably the stupid speakers in the theater. But other than that, just I guess I don't know. I don't have anything serious that I would like dock at points. But I mean, I'm not going to give it that point because it's like a perfect movie, because it's definitely not a perfect movie. But it was definitely like a fantastic movie. It was awesome. Really, really liked it. And I think anyone else out there, if you like monster movies, then this is definitely a must-see for you. And so I think that's pretty much it. If you like that review, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Give me a like, and check out what else we have, We got a lot of stuff on the GeekVerse podcast YouTube feed here. So many videos, so many content to go check out. Check out our old Gauntlet videos. Check out all of our new videos popping in here. Check out our Star Wars Clone Wars retrospectives, because those are dropping quick. Early episodes on Patreon. And just, get caught up on that, because me and Travis are going to be basically reviewing the new Season 7 of Star Wars Clone Wars on Disney Plus when that debuts in February, so that'll be super stellar. Other things that are coming up are Birds of Prey review, which we'll be doing next month, and I think that just about does it. So check out, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Twitter, GeekVerse Cast, GeekVerse Podcast, iTunes, we're everywhere. Just Google us and you're going to find lots of stuff. But, check us out on Patreon, especially if you're looking for any kind of exclusive content. All of your donations that you commit to us, they go to a good cause. They go to making sure that we can keep doing this kind of, this stuff and trying to upgrade our content so that you guys get even better content, because everything you do, we just try to give it back to you guys. So we really appreciate all your support over the past few years. And, so until next time, have a good one, and we'll see you in the search bar.